I did not wake up one day and say, I know what I should do with my life. I should teach feminism to women in Afghanistan.
Hi, everyone. This is Raquel.
Hi, and this is Jennifer.
Welcome to Madness Cafe.
This is a feminist podcast where we talk about women's issues, politics, and health and wellness.
And where those issues intersect. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to Madness Cafe. Today, our guest is Cara Cruikshank. And Cara is a cultural bridge builder. As a writer, director, producer, advocate, and educator who has created transformative projects across 4 continents, the US, France, Turkey, and Brazil, Cara brings an artist's vision to humanitarian work and something rarely seen in crisis response. The understanding that people experiencing trauma need more than survival skills. They need spaces to imagine, to heal, and to become. Amen. After the Taliban seized Afghanistan in 2021 and the world watched its women disappear from public life, Cara asked Afghan women what they needed most, then listened deeply to their response. The result is Voices Unveiled, a holistic underground school and self-empowerment program that stands nearly alone in the digital education landscape for recognizing what Afghan women themselves identified as their deepest need. Not just marketable skills, but psychological healing, feminist consciousness, and the reclamation of their right to dream. Yes. What began as a comprehensive 12-week self-empowerment course has blossomed into a full educational ecosystem, now offering over a dozen elective courses spanning the humanities, arts, mindfulness, sciences, and technology, all grounded in the principle that sustainable transformation requires addressing the whole person. Mind, body, and spirit. Today, Voices Unveiled works with hundreds of women and girls ages 13 to 30 across Afghanistan and beyond. As founder and executive director, Cara leads a global network of over 30 volunteers, creating what one student calls a revolution within me, proving that education, when it addresses the whole person, becomes a powerful act of resistance. My God, Cara, we are so excited to talk to you about this. Oh, welcome to Madness Cafe.
Welcome.
Thank you so much. I'm excited too.
It's so interesting because our last podcast we did was just talking about education and maybe the difference of education as a system versus education that is personal, mind, body, and soul. On your Instagram, it says Voices Unveiled wasn't created for Afghan women. It was created with them. What does that mean?
Yeah. I didn't wake up one day. I'm from New York. I did not wake up one day and say, I know what I should do with my life. I should teach feminism to women in Afghanistan. No, I actually was introduced through a film project I was part of. I was working with an Iranian filmmaker who had been exiled from her country for making a film about a refugee from Afghanistan. I eventually met the subject of her film, Sunita Alizada, who is a very prominent activist and rap artist from Afghanistan, who is also a refugee, but prior to this current crisis. She was attending Bard at that time, Bard College in New York. We got to know each other. She got to know the artistic work I was doing, which was very focused on advocating women. And she asked me to speak on campus and share some of the material from, I'm also a writer, director, and producer of independent theater and sometimes film. So anyway, one thing led to another, and I eventually met some of her peers who that year, this was 2022, were arriving at Bard, which had awarded, I think, 100 scholarships to Afghan refugees.
Wow.
Both men and women. And the first person that I came into contact with through Sunita was a student at Bard who had just arrived, Akela Nusrat. And she told me her story of fleeing after the US left Afghanistan, and the crazy journey through multiple countries under crazy circumstances while trying to study online and keep up with everything she was in the midst of as a student, and then eventually arriving in New York and then to Bard, where she was awarded a scholarship. And hearing the story, the first question I asked was simply, what is the most valuable thing that Americans and Western people can do to support the women who were left behind, who are still there living this nightmare? And her answer, without hesitation, was teach something online, because the girls and women who just overnight have been banned from education feel so isolated and so forgotten. And remember, this happened, you know, it didn't happen immediately. It happened very quickly, in sort of a domino effect. So Taliban began showing up, I mean, not unlike what we're seeing right now in our own
Scary.
country, where city by city there were just takeovers. And so, you know, I think certain places got education banned a little later than others, maybe, but by the end of 2021, beginning of 2022, most women could no longer attend high school or university. And that is still the case 4 years later. So yeah, the answer I received was teach something online. These women and girls don't feel like they exist. They're under house arrest, essentially banned from public life. And, you know, the portal of the internet is their only chance of any interaction with anybody outside. And they really need to be seen and heard. And I have a background in education. I've led many different independent educational programs and projects over many years for all ages, from preschool to adults. So it was something I could do and to contribute. So I asked, how can I do that? And I was immediately linked through Afghan women to an underground school run by Afghans and other refugees in other countries. And so they helped source my first students. And when I asked what I should teach, and I was thinking, you know, I have a background in the arts. So I was thinking, should I teach theater? Should I teach creative writing? You know, what would be valuable? It was Sonita who answered, again, without a pause, teach self-empowerment and feminism. And I was
That's
like,
so amazing.
so I kind of gulped, because, you know, I
Right.
have done a lot of women's advocacy work in multiple countries, and with a broad span of ages. But, you know, this is a very specific culture, country, moment. I had never been to Afghanistan. I don't speak Farsi. I'm a white American, Brazilian, you know, Westerner. While I've spent plenty of time overseas and have worked throughout my career in building cultural bridges, you know, there's a certain intimidation of saying, hey, stepping into such a space and thinking you know anything.
It's a huge thing. Huge.
Yeah.
And so, you know, I approached it really as, first of all, I asked other Afghans in this underground school. That's, I'll give a shout out to them. Their acronym is AYLA, AYLA, Afghan Youth Leadership Academy.
I love that.
So I asked them, I gave them a menu of options, including Sonita's suggestion. And they said, okay, we'll talk to our team, we'll get back to you. And when they got back to me, they said self-empowerment and feminism. So yeah, so I approached it. I started with a class of maybe 25, 30 women from across
Impressive.
Afghanistan, and quite a span of ages. I think my youngest was 18 that semester, and the oldest might have been about 30. And yeah, the way that I approach this work is I am not an expert in any of the topics that we're covering. I am on this journey too. I'm a Westerner, so I will give you what I have experienced and learned thus far from my angle. But we're in this together, and you're going to help guide me as to what you need to know and want to explore. And, we're all learning here. So that's the approach. And that's what I mean when I say with Afghan women, because my students, I mean, I have the title and role of teacher, but this has been a huge education for me as a human, as a woman, as an activist, in so many ways, as a survivor of abuse and lots of other things. And so I think, I, as much as, we capture testimonials of our students and want to know the impact that we're making as a nonprofit and as a grassroots effort to make change. What I personally have learned and the meaning that it has brought to my own life, to know these women, to see the level of courage and resilience that they bring every day, and their determination to have vision and to maintain a sense of humor and to see forward past incredibly difficult circumstances is something that's so relevant to all of us everywhere right now. And yeah.
One of the first things that occurred to me when I was getting ready for today was a fear for their safety, and also wondering how it's even possible that they're able to take the classes. And this is, I'm sure I'll go ahead and admit, probably a really ignorant thing to think, but for some reason when I think about Taliban controlled countries, I think, and like I said, maybe this is ignorant and misinformed on my part, but I just assume that nobody has any access to the internet. And if they do have access, that maybe it's not safe. But I'm guessing I'm probably wrong in that assumption.
So no, that's a very fair assumption to have, and
Okay.
very few people do. Very few women have access to the internet. It's very challenging for them to, first of all, you have to have a device. Many women do not. Second of all, you have to have some kind of Wi-Fi or internet. I don't know if you've heard, but 2 weeks ago, at the end of September and the 1st of October, the Taliban did, there was a nationwide blackout of internet access and
Oh.
phone access, telephone service.
Mhm.
And the Taliban was reported to, the weeks before that, be disassembling fiber optics across, in many parts of the country.
Mhm.
And those 2 days of no internet, not one message from one student in Afghanistan, no one outside of the country with family in the country being able to hear or talk to their loved ones, no one in the country being able to communicate even with their own relatives in country, was a very scary moment for everyone. And even luckily, that time was about a 48-hour or so blackout. For our students, they had no sense of it having only been 2 days. But think of that happening anywhere, right? Where
Yeah.
suddenly not only we've all had it at home, right?
Mm.
Where suddenly our internet stops working
Mhm.
and we know the impact of that and the inconvenience of that and
Mhm.
having to find another place if we work remotely or have something urgent that we need to communicate or whatever, having to find, and track down internet somewhere else, whether you're living in a rural area or an urban area, and depending on which, it can be even more complicated.
Mhm.
Yes, but we're allowed to leave the house.
Exactly.
Right. So imagine that happening under such circumstances where if you step a toe outside your door without a male family member by your side and without being fully covered, your life is at risk, and all the implied, health risks, dangers for anyone who can't communicate outside of their own home. It was very scary. So yeah, this is an ongoing challenge. There's also frequent power outages across the country, as is the case for much of the developed world, and seems to be increasingly so in the developed world, thanks to AI
Mm.
Yeah.
and new technologies.
Mhm.
So yeah, no, it is an ongoing challenge. I won't speak more about how we try, where our
Of course.
role is with that, just because of security. But
Of course.
yeah, security is an ongoing challenge for sure, and something we highly prioritize.
With most of your students, are they having support from their family members, their spouses, the men in their lives? Or are they also having to do that without that inner household support?
It completely varies. So some women have progressive families, some absolutely don't. And that is also as variant as the people and age range and regions that we're reaching. Yeah.
And are the students are they able to be in contact with each other outside of the classroom, or is it just during their studies?
Yeah, that's to their own discretion. In our classroom, we're not using real names, we're not using cameras on,
Ah,
other than the
Okay.
staff. But
Okay.
we take any measures we can very seriously. So the students themselves don't know each other's real identities as a way
okay.
to
Okay.
protect everybody. Mhm.
Okay. That makes sense.
That makes me feel a little bit better.
Yeah. 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 One of the things that you talk about is the holistic aspect of the courses and the programs and why it's important that it be holistic. Can you speak to that a little bit?
Yeah, and I just want to go back really quick to what Jennifer said
Sure.
about, regardless of how much we reach for more and more security measures, the fact of the matter is that any girl or woman studying online right now is breaking the law
Yeah.
and is risking lots of potential dangers because of how much they want to learn and study. So that's, I just want to shine a spotlight on that, because that's
Of course. Of
true
course.
courage. That's really brave to value knowledge to the level that you're willing to risk everything to reach for it.
Yeah.
So
Wow.
yeah, I just wanted to bring that forward. And to your question, is it Raquel?
Raquel, yes. I
Raquel.
basically think Raquel Welch, and then there you got it.
Okay, got it. Why holistic education? The statistics speak for themselves, and I'm not great at memorizing numbers, forgive me, but we're talking about a country with roughly 21 million women who have all been banned from public life, no matter your ethnicity, no matter your age. You cannot, in many regions, it's illegal to enter a public park if you're female. It's illegal to go to a hair salon if you're female, etc. I mean, we can't it's hard to grasp the
It is
level
hard.
of which
Yeah.
women have been removed and silenced. There's continuously more outrageous decrees and laws made week by week over these 4 years. The most recent being, in some regions, the Taliban banned women from being able to have both eyes visible if they're outside the home. So one eye has to be covered if they're not wearing a full burqa. Holistic education, because every woman we're interacting with is experiencing trauma on every level, right? On familial levels, on social levels, and of course, politically. How can you focus well? How can you sustain rigorous studies of any kind? Let's say hard skills that will help you potentially get employed or find a scholarship overseas or whatever you're reaching for. If you can't, if your brain and nervous system can't function, that's very hard to sustain for very long. So I think that the women I originally met who asked me to teach self-empowerment were pointing at that. We're saying women need not only skills, but they need to know how to reconnect with themselves and believe in themselves and know their value and know their worth in a country and culture that's telling them that they have none whatsoever. So, you know, reaching for all areas of mental health, self-care, along with lots of other topics and themes that we cover is so important. And often the feedback we get semester after semester, we're about to complete our 6th semester now. Thank you. But yeah, one of the strongest and most common pieces of feedback that we get from students is that this program is a lifeline because it helps them fall in love with themselves. It helps, I'm quoting, it helps me fall in love with myself. It helped me realize that I have value. One student that is just completing her 2nd semester just gave me some feedback the other day saying, all my life I've wished I was a boy because I've watched my brother have all these privileges and abilities to do things I've never been allowed to do, even though I've wanted to do them. And so I've just always been frustrated that I am female and just wished I could be a boy. And she said, since I took this class, I really love the fact that I'm a girl, and I realize how much value that has. And it's the first time in my life that I feel good about that. So that's why holistic, because we can teach computer programming, we can teach all the tech skills in the world, but if women don't know that they matter, it'll only go so far, right? And we'll just keep spinning the wheels instead of reinventing them, which is so much what is needed, right? For women to step up and not replicate what men have done that hasn't worked, but to
No, it
do it,
doesn't work.
to bring something new forward
Yeah.
that's authentic and very real.
Now, your website says you bring an artistic vision to humanitarian work. How did you go about putting your curriculum together? How do you decide what is self-empowerment and how do you teach feminism?
Yeah, self-empowerment is a very abstract term, right?
Especially in a culture that's so different from Western culture.
I think
Yeah.
even in our culture, it's,
Yeah.
but let's,
And it can be misconstrued, it can be commodified, it can be appropriated, all kinds of things.
All the
Right.
time.
right.
And I'm sure we all know what that looks like by now. The wellness, the multi-billion-dollar wellness industry.
I'm a sucker for it.
We all
We
have
all
things.
are. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
The short answer is that this is a collaborative curriculum. So I don't come in as an expert. I don't come in as a savior or a hero, but somebody who's ready to be present, to listen, to validate, to bring my own humble experience as a woman navigating life, um, and to listen deeply to what direction the students themselves want to go in. And today we're working with ages 13 to, my youngest student is 13, my
Wow.
oldest is 42, with the majority being high school and undergrad. Mostly in urban areas, some in rural areas, and everything in between. I have a student who lives in a rural area near the mountains, and she has very difficult, a lot of difficulty accessing any signal or Wi-Fi, from her device. So she takes class literally by candlelight in a field of cows in order to be part of what we're doing. She brings her lantern and she finds her signal somewhere in the dark in a field, which is not so safe, right? But again, these are warriors. I mean, these are students of 18, 19, 20 who know that this is the only path forward to find their way to their future, because where they are in no way reflects who they are inside. Also, another thing I hear very frequently from students of all ages is this is the first time I've ever been able to share my thoughts, feelings, and opinions with anyone.
It's
And
huge.
how strange that I feel safe doing that with someone who lives across the world, with a group of women I don't even know the real names of in my own country. But somehow here I am, and I feel like I can share from my heart what I feel. So yeah, the curriculum is constantly changing because at each moment of this crisis is not the same. And we know that from the crises we've experienced in our own country. It's malleable. It speaks to the moment. Often things that I project or plan ahead, I keep them very loose, and often they change course depending on what the students are needing and asking for and what each moment, there have been some very serious earthquakes in Afghanistan in these 4 years, and one very recently, just a couple of months ago, maybe was it, I don't remember if it was August or September, but very recently. And the women and children, I mean, thousands of people died in this earthquake, and the women and children were not rescued because
No,
it's illegal for women to be rescued, part of rescue teams. And it's illegal for a man who's not an immediate relative to touch a
to
woman.
touch them.
So
Yeah.
they were left to die under the rubble. There are other crises going on top of just having the whole country, not just, but having the whole country occupied by an incredibly violent regime, that's has deep hatred for women under the guise of religion. Sound familiar?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yes,
A
So,
little
it
bit.
does. It
yeah,
does. With your work, do you have fear for this country? Do you see warning signs? Do you see
I
the
do. I
what
really do.
what parallels speak to you?
I see the evangelist movement as being very similar
Mhm.
Yeah,
in its agenda and value system towards
Yeah.
women, and people of color and everything else, LGBTQ, etc. I think obviously violence is the leading and dominant strategy for, you know
control.
the agenda. Yeah, there are plenty of parallels. A lot of the threats that have been made by the current administration are very hauntingly similar to what I've watched unfold in Afghanistan. Yeah, it's mind-blowing to think that when I began this project 2.5 years ago, you know, the primary goal for many Afghan women was to get a scholarship in the US to continue their studies. And
Probably
today,
not anymore.
today they're banned from the US.
Yeah.
There's a ban on Afghanistan. It is proving to be a very unsafe place for many immigrants and refugees who
Yes, yes, it
otherwise
is.
thought it would be their saving grace. So yeah, this is why I feel that this particular cause is something worth being dedicated to, and why I keep this commitment is because, you know, we know that there are countless crises happening in countless nations right now for countless communities of women. Sudan, Ukraine, Palestine, Yemen, Congo, the list goes on. So why Afghanistan? I think right now, today, Afghanistan stands as the primary example of the most extreme version of gender apartheid, where the entire nation has removed women from, you know, the entire nation of women, 21 million human beings have been silenced and removed from any participation, any decision making, any enjoyment of public spaces of any kind. That, to me, the fact that that has prevailed for 4 years to that large of a population of women, and the whole world has gone, oh, that's too bad. Oh,
Yeah.
well, that's incredibly chilling as a woman anywhere, that that can be on some level normalized to where there's been no international intervention of any kind. As time persists and the poverty persists, more and more lives are lost, damaged, and destroyed. So I don't see the crisis in Afghanistan as a fluke or as a situation for just one very misfortunate population of people. I see it as an echo of our times and a symbol of how quickly women's rights can go away. The women I know a few years ago had full lives. They were playing sports, they were going to school, they were traveling, they were studying, they were working. I have, you know, women of every profession in my classes. I have women with every kind of degree and women who haven't had a chance yet to get a degree. This is a symbol of what world we're living in 2025 and how it feels about women.
Mm-hmm.
So what can, I don't know, in I feel kind of almost in equal parts that maybe this is a simple question and maybe this is too big a question, but so what can we learn from this? Like what lessons can we take from what has happened to these women and continues to happen to them, and from how they're finding a way to maintain their humanity and fight against this?
It is a big question. I think prevention is utmost. I think it's naive to assume this happens to women in other countries.
Right.
It'll never happen to me. It'll never happen here. You know, we're past that point of fiction.
Yeah,
Mhm.
agreed.
It can happen anywhere at any time, and it has throughout history, and it repeats itself. Certainly bringing the least common denominator populations of marginalized people forward as leaders and listening to what they need and letting them lead, because that's how, I mean, this is kind of, we learned a lot about this in the last bunch of years through the pandemic, through the Black Lives Matter movement, watching Indigenous movements all around the world trying to find ways to continue to exist and maintain their own cultures and their own knowledge. So yeah, I think anything preventative where communities come together of men and women to discuss and collaborate on, first of all, how do we stand our ground? Second of all,
Mhm.
how do we rework this? You know, not only what are we resisting against, but what world do we want to live in?
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
what does that look like?
Mhm.
What are we
'Cause,
building?
yeah, a lot
Exactly.
of time, a lot of moments of history have brought forth huge change, as we've all seen, only to kind of replicate itself in a new package. Having vision is so important, and redefining is so important. And then, you know, watching women who are deep inside of such a crisis and seeing the courage that they're required to maintain and the resilience that they are able to bring forward again and again and again is testimony to how much force is available if we tap it. What I've learned working with this community is, um, you know, not that much is needed to keep a movement going forward, other than obviously resources are important and useful and good, but in terms of sustaining a movement, not much is needed beyond being heard and validated. I think that if there's anything I could point to as the most impactful thing I do as an educator, it's simply that, being able to be present, to listen to how each person going through this feels and what's important to her, what's real for her, what her hopes and dreams and ambitions are, and validate that those are valuable, important, and worthy and worth working for. That's really the heart of it. So we can do that for each other as men, women, and any other gender. We can do that, you know, we can bring that. And the more we do it, especially for those whose voices have been silenced, I think the more power there is.
Mhm.
Mm. Wow.
That's really powerful.
Yeah.
It's simple too, you
Yeah.
know, being
Mhm.
seen and heard goes a long way.
Right.
It's almost like being the witness.
Yeah.
Are you teaching visioning? Are the women working on what does a new world look like to us? What is it we want to see and be? Is that something that's being constructed individually for the women and sort of as a collective for the women?
Yeah, absolutely. And these are women with very specific goals and very specific vision, from 13 to 15 to 18 and onward. I don't think I've met one single, I've worked with hundreds of students at this point. I don't think I've met one single Afghan woman or girl who hasn't been able to, in a moment, tell me very clearly what she sees as, you know, her desired future, what she wants to do professionally, what she's interested in, what her hobbies are. I have not met a single person who's ambiguous about her dreams, her interests, her hobbies, etc. And usually, you know, there's a long list of responses for each individual. um I heard something recently that I want to mention also. I was watching, I think it's like a comedy program on YouTube and Instagram called it takes place in the New York City Metro. And I can't think of the name of it right now, but it's like he's interviewing celebrities on the New York subway, on their hot takes on different subjects. And I heard him interview someone, I don't know who she was, but she said, this was a Black Muslim American woman. And she said, just as we need reparations for Black communities and Indigenous communities, we need reparations for women. I've actually never heard that statement before. But what would a world look like, or a community look like? Let's take it to even just the micro. If there was focus on reparations for women of all colors, of all ethnicities and ages. But what would that look like?
All of the unpaid labor.
I would just take rights for women.
Yeah, right, rights are a good start, and not
Rights.
having them taken away would be good.
Every woman able to go to school, to pursue an education, to have.
One in 5 girls, this is a global statistic,
Yeah.
is married before the age of 18.
Oh,
God.
to go to school, to have health care, to make decisions about their own body, to be able to vision what it is that I want for myself. Yeah.
So, Cara, and if you can't answer this question, that's fine. I completely get it. But how do you find instructors for the different courses? Or, like, I mean, this is a huge undertaking, and it's incredibly important. And I'm sure there's lots of concerns that have to be top of mind when you're trying to find people for teaching the courses and that sort of thing. So how do you do that?
It's a network. So we do
Okay.
it very organically and grassroots. And
Okay.
that's just word of mouth and people knowing people and people stepping forward and saying, hey, I'm a PhD in this subject. I've worked in this field for X number of years. I would love to offer this to women and girls in Afghanistan. It just comes about on its own, really. And then we, just make sure everybody's on the same page in terms of etiquette for this very specific situation and community.
Right.
Yeah, but our volunteer instructors are an incredible community, global, they're coming from all different nations and men and women, and really a wonderful group of people.
How can our listeners support?
Our website is voicesunveiled.org. We're on Instagram, and we're on Facebook under our mother organization, which is Café de la Culture. We're also on LinkedIn, and we are constantly fundraising for scholarships for students to attend. Every program, every class that we teach is free to our students. Also, providing internet has costs, which is necessary, of course. So one way to support, of course, would be financially to contribute 5, 10, 15, 20, $100, whatever you can do. $300 sponsors a student for an entire semester. $900 sponsors a student for a full year. And then we also have an emergency aid fund to help bring emergency needs to families, whether it be medical care, housing, food. $200 feeds a small family for a month. 300 feeds a large family for a month. Many students do need medical care that they can't otherwise afford. So a little bit goes a long way. We also have monthly sponsorship opportunities. So if someone wants to sponsor a specific student or sponsor Voices Unveiled monthly to help us continue to reach more women to have these opportunities. That's an option at any amount, starting with $5 a month. There's also opportunities to volunteer and to support through volunteerism in any area of our project, whether that's administration, tech, cybersecurity, teaching, etc.
All of that, for people who are listening, all of that will be in the show notes.
Was there anything that you wanted to tell our listeners that we didn't give you the opportunity to?
I would love to just share specific stories of students. It's hard for those who haven't been to Afghanistan or maybe aren't familiar with the culture. It's hard to imagine who these women might be and what they're like. Yeah, I'm trying to think. There's so many stories I can tell. I have a student right now who didn't get to finish her high school diploma yet. She's been diligently studying online to through an American high school that once she completes the courses will give her a high school diploma. So there are programs like this. They're very rare, but there are programs like this that exist. She has taken a couple of semesters of our self-empowerment course, as well as some of our other electives. She's about 20 years old and currently in Pakistan as a refugee. And she had to flee. She has a disabled mother. She has several sisters still at home. And she had to flee her, well, let me see where to, it's so delicate, I want to be able to share, but I have to also be sparing with some of the details. Essentially, I'm trying to give you a picture of how many layers there are to each woman's life in terms of what she has to overcome to be able to A, stay alive, B, continue her studies. So in the case of this particular student, she found herself in Pakistan kind of by a stroke of luck. She was able to get there. It's not easy to go from Afghanistan to Pakistan for lots of reasons I won't go into, but the political situation is very tense between the two countries, and the costs are very high. But anyway, she was able to get there. Shortly after she arrived, her own father, found out she had gone to Pakistan and filed a case against her with the Taliban as a way to try to force her back. Now, why would a father do this? Because there's high money to be made when you sell your daughter into marriage, which is very common all over Asia and Africa and many parts of the world. And of course, in today's ever expanding sex trafficking market, right? So that spans all nations. So again, we can't think of these problems as over there. They exist everywhere. But in her case, her father filed a case against her as a way to scare her back force her back into the country, because he doesn't want to lose the opportunity to make money off of selling her as a bride. So she's, living as a refugee, trying to finish her diploma, trying to apply for humanitarian visas overseas. You can't do that from Afghanistan because there are no consulates in Afghanistan. There are no embassies in Afghanistan of other nations due to the Taliban running the government. So you have to leave in order to even be able to apply for asylum anywhere. So, meanwhile, she's the most optimistic, kind-hearted, smart kid you could ever meet, consistently, because I've known her over a year now, and just the way she handles the most harrowing situations, is so incredibly graceful and smart and emotionally intelligent, and the dedication that she has not only to her own studies, but her ability to lift others up along the way, even though she hasn't gotten anywhere yet, is extraordinary. So, these are the kinds of women I have the privilege to know, and these are not, obviously they're victimized by many unjust circumstances and people, but these are not victims. These are not helpless, uh, women who need to be taken care of. These are capable, competent, extraordinary minds, and this is an incredible resource collectively that the world is missing out on the longer this crisis continues.
Cara, thank you for doing this work and for telling us about it. I mean, it just goes to show that sometimes the human spirit can be so incredibly strong and resilient, and the power of women is phenomenal. So
Indeed.
thank you for doing this work.
Thank you for highlighting and raising their voices today. That's really why I'm here, is to speak for women who cannot speak for themselves because they're not allowed to, and their lives and their families' lives would be at risk if they were to. So thank you for helping illuminate their stories and voices. It's deeply meaningful to me and to them. And thank you for your solidarity. Really appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Really our pleasure.
Thank you.
And may we start to reverse this trend of women's rights declining globally
Amen.
to women gaining speed again and becoming rightful leaders in all communities.
Amen.
Yeah.
To
Thank
women
you so
gaining
much.
speed again.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, Cara.
Bye, guys.
Bye. Okay, Raquel, you want to
Yes.
recap? I feel a little somber, but let's recap.
Yeah. I have so much respect and awe for those girls and women, and the just something that Cara said kind of sticks out for me when she was talking about making these women visible for, or making other people outside Afghanistan understand.
Mm-hmm.
But you know what? They're women. They're people. They're people.
Mm-hmm.
And the sad fact that some other people still have to be reminded of that all the fucking time, that people are people, women are people, people deserve basic fucking human rights. It just, it kills me that people have to continue to be reminded of that. But the fact that Cara is doing this work, and that she had the wherewithal to say, "Hey, you tell me, what can I do? What, you tell me what you need."
That's change right there. That's the
Yeah.
difference in my opinion, in the work that they're doing is it's collaborative
Mhm, mhm.
instead of this saviorism.
Right. She's taking her lead, and the organization Voices Unveiled, they're taking their lead from the women that they are working to serve.
Yeah, absolutely. That's the change.
Mm-hmm.
That's more of that.
Yep. Yes, please.
On their website, there's a poem that spoke to me.
Mhm.
The author's name is not given, obviously, for protection purposes, but this was one poem written by a student as part of Voices Unveiled course. A woman, this is me, a woman. They robbed me of my femininity. They stoned me for a crime of loving. They buried me alive for saying no. This is my house, a place where I, as a woman, have no role. I am like this. Seeing my hair is a crime. My loud laughter is disgraceful and sinful. Have you heard the sound of my laughter? How foreign this voice is to me. I didn't even realize how foreign this voice is to me. What does it sound like to you? Listen to how delicately sad it is. The place of the slap still remains on my blue face. You don't bother me anymore. I love your manly hands, but don't touch my mouth. Let me speak. Hear my voice. I have words.
Hear my voice. I have words. My God.
Yeah.
In the face of such incredible violence and violence on every level, these women and girls are staying strong and pursuing knowledge.
And refusing to be silent, resisting.
Exactly. That we as a country, we as a society here in the US, and I dare say worldwide, we need to pay attention. We have got to wake up and pay attention.
And braid ourselves together and stand in solidarity.
Absolutely. Absolutely. As we were talking about with Eve Ewing's book, braid ourselves together, be in community, support each other. And listen to what people are telling you. They will tell you what they need. They will tell you what they want. Listen and just do something.
Hey, listeners, if you can, realize that education is banned, self-expression is forbidden, self-empowerment is discouraged, feminism is illegal. If you can support Voices Unveiled in any way, a small donation, volunteerism, just spread the word,
Spread the word.
become aware, read, just jump on board, do something, join the cause.
Yeah, and you know, and like Cara said, $5, $10, whatever you can do. Every little bit helps.
Yeah. Thanks, Raquel.
Thanks, Jennifer.
Bye.
Bye. Thanks for listening to today's episode. If you like this episode, please share it with a friend.
Or you could leave us a comment and a 5-star review, or email us at madnesscafepodcast@gmail.com.
Thanks, everybody.